Okay, great. We've made some HTTP requests, but we have a problem. We're hard coding the API URI into the code. So if we come and take a look at this, just right here, we're just hard coding this, and that's no good because when we go to deploy this, most likely our server is going to be on a different URI, and we're going to want to change that. Normally, we would do something like using environment variables, but I've had a lot of trouble getting environment variables to properly work in all circumstances. Now, maybe it works better on Linux machines than Windows, but I want something that just consistently, when we compile our front end, it's just gonna work. So, what I do believe is good for right now until a better solution comes along is to use include stir to get this from a file at compile time. This is going to be very similar to the idea of grabbing a potential like CSS file out at compile time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want them all together. So I'm going to actually convert our API into a file, into a folder, so we can have all of the sort of like the URLs together. I'm going to create an API, and we're going to move API in there, and I'm going to rename it to mod, which actually means that everything is going to remain exactly the same. But then inside of here, we're going to create, I think we're going to call this the base API URI. I'm just going to put this as .txt. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to give it anything afterwards. And we're just going to take this HTTP and all the way through this v1. I'm not going to include the slash. I'm going to put that in there. Nothing else. Okay, so back to you. Now we're going to want to create a const that's going to grab this at compile time and make it available to us. So do, let's see, const. This is going to be our base API URI. Your type is going to be a stir. And we're going to use the I always forget exactly what it is. Let's go take a look. In Rust, if you go to list of macros, there's just a whole bunch of them here. And the one that I'm looking for here is this include stir. And so if we take a look at it, it's just going to basically at compile time, grab the contents of a file and then add it to our code as if it's a static stir. So perfect. Include stir. Do not do the include because that also is equivalent of exec. It's going to execute the code too inside of that file. Not what we want. So include stir, and I want this to be the base API URI.txt. Something important to note here. This is relative to the file. So that's why it has to be inside of this API here. Okay, now it's just yelling at us, it's saying that this base API URI is never being used. So I need to put that and replace you with that. However, we can't just do that inside of like just a normal string like this. We're going to use a format. So we're going to do a format, bang, open parentheses, go to the end of here. We're going to close, and we're going to add in our base API URI in there. Now it's going to yell at us because it doesn't want a string, it wants a reference to a string. We'll go ahead and add a reference to you. And now it seems to be working. And if we did it all correctly when we run it, it will work. So I wanna do something slightly different. I want to add in like a meow on the end. This should cause it to fail in a very easy sort of to see way. And I'm going to go ahead and restart my server here just to make sure it grabs that from the compiled state. I think it will anyways, but just going to give ourselves the best possible chance. Let's come back to our URL here. I'm going to look at the network tab and hit login. We get a 404, and look at that. It was trying to go to HTTP localhost port 3000 API v1 meow. Okay, perfect. So we're going to come back to our code. I'm going to remove that meow and the trailing slash because we don't want it to try to go to // That's all saved. Let's try this one more time without restarting trunk. And that works just fine. So to recap really quickly, we're using include stir in order to grab the contents of a file. It's sort of like using this as an environment variable, but I just wasn't able to get the environment variables to recognize that the environment variable existed in a Windows environment. So until that works, we're going to use this include stir sort of like hack. It's going to grab the contents of this file, which just happens to be the URL. It then puts it into this const that I have. It does all of this at a compile time. And now we can use that wherever we want. And that should make it really easy for us to then switch this around. When we go to compile for production, we can make sure that we switch out the contents of this file for something else. So if you're doing that in like a CI/CD system, you could then change this with a script right beforehand. And that could use an environment variable. All right, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helped, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.